Hello YouTubers. For the last 2,000 years, something that has plagued even the most respected philosophers and theologians is something called the problem of evil. And since they've had so much trouble figuring it out, I'm here to let the cat out of the bag. After this video, you'll also understand more than they do. Now, to be clear, you might not like the answer, but that doesn't mean the answer is incorrect. First, for those who are unaware, I'll state the problem. Christians and other Abrahamic religions believe in the existence of an omnipotent, omnibenevolent, and omniscient God. Given that, some have asked if God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good, why doesn't He prevent evil? And that is the problem of evil. This problem is especially difficult for those who reject the plain scriptural teaching that we are predestined. For if we have free will, then we can freely choose to do good or bad. Then God, knowing our choices, does nothing to prevent it. I would suspect that such notions have even turned some away from God, believing He does nothing to prevent evil. Some have even come to the conclusion that God must not be all-powerful or all-knowing or even all-good if He won't prevent evil. Others have even come to the conclusion that God might not exist because they can't solve the problem of evil. This is why free will is both an incorrect understanding of our existence and of God. One problem is that a lot of Christians want to believe they have free will. To be clear, the Bible flat out states we are predestined. Here are a couple of passages. In Ephesians 1, it states, "Even as He chose us in Him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before Him in love. He predestined us for adoption to Himself, as sons through Jesus Christ, according to the purpose of His will." And then in verse 11, it repeats the point that we are predestined. It states, "In Him we have obtained an inheritance, having been predestined according to the purpose of Him who works all things, according to the counsel of His will." And in Romans 8, Paul made the point again. It states, "For those whom He foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son, in order that He might be the firstborn among many brothers. And those whom He predestined, He also called. And those whom He called, He also justified. And those whom He justified, He also glorified." Moreover, in the very next chapter, Paul the Apostle goes through great lengths to answer the charges of the problem of evil. If you remember the Exodus and the plagues of Egypt, you know that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. God didn't have mercy on Pharaoh, but rather made him crueler and more evil. God didn't prevent evil. Rather, God made Pharaoh even more evil. Why would God do this? Well, Paul answers that in the next few verses. What's important to understand is that the problem of evil is answered in Romans 9:17 through 23. It states, "For the scripture says to Pharaoh, for this very purpose I have raised you up, that I might show my power in you, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth." So then He has mercy on whomever He wills, and He hardens whomever He wills. You will say to me then, why does He still find fault? For who can resist His will? But who are you, O man, to answer back to God? Will what is molded say to its molder, why have you made me like this? Has the potter no right over the clay to make out of the same lump one vessel for honorable use and another for dishonorable use? What if God, desiring to show his wrath and to make known his power, has endured with much patience vessels of wrath prepared for destruction, in order to make known the riches of his glory for vessels of mercy, which he has prepared beforehand for glory? Just as the philosophers and theologians often ask, why does he find fault? For who can resist his will? In other words, if God doesn't stop evil and in some cases even makes people more evil, then why does God find fault with us? After all, we can't resist God's will. In verse 20, Paul goes on to say that we really have no right to question why God made us the way he did. He compares God to being a potter and that us humans are the clay. Paul makes the case that the potter can make whatever kind of vessel he wants with his clay. That he has the right to make some vessels to be used for honorable uses and other for dishonorable uses. In verse 22 and 23, Paul directly answers why. That God made some people to be evil precisely so that he can show his wrath and power. If everyone was good, then he wouldn't need to act, would he? If everyone was good, how could we put our faith in him? But in order to make known his majesty and the riches of his glory for those he has mercy on, he is patient with the people he has prepared for destruction. It is for this same reason that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. As verse 17 says, "For this very purpose I have raised you up, that I might show my power in you, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth." So God doesn't prevent evil. Rather, God made some people evil precisely so he can show his power and his mercy. Well, that's all I have for today. If you like this video, please show your support by subscribing. Thanks for your time.